is larger than life. It is called Texas high school football. Only one show can bring the greatest sport from the greatest state into focus. Lone Star Gridiron.
StarGridiron.com. Access the complete history of Texas high school football, over 100 years of information, win-loss records, coaching histories, individual stats, records, and more. Lone Star Gridiron, the authority on Texas high school football.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the UIL State Football Championship live stream, day one. I'm Chris Daly. I'm joined by Terry Bennett. How are you doing today, Terry?
Doing well. First day in the books. We are now rolling downhill on the end of this football season.
I like it. And for those who may not have heard, we're doing previews also. Can you kind of explain what those are?
Yeah, for every 11-man state championship game, we have a preview show. We've already, of course, got the one that just happened, Albany versus Mart, but we've already got the 2A game tomorrow and the 2 3A games preview shows up on the website and on all of our podcast platforms. And basically each day we'll release the next day's pregame shows. And then, of course, we're coming back here to do these postgame shows once a night at the end of the night to recap all of the games.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's kind of recap what's been happening today. We're not going to spend a lot of time on 6-man, but that is what started the day, right?
Yeah, I mean, Lorraine and Benjamin, and, you know, we were talking about it off the air, and I think everybody knew that the biggest story was Grayson Rigdon. Last year he was with Strawn. They won state. They moved. They're over to Benjamin, a team that last year was really solid, 10-1. Their issue was offense. They was good defensively last year. They were good defensively again this year, and then you add him on the offense, and you took a really good team coming back from last year, and you made them a great team.
Yeah, and I'm going to bring in Brett Swinney also at the same time from NetSN. Hey, Brett, how are you doing?
Good. Evening, fellas.
Evening.
Nice. Yeah, and you were talking about Grayson Rigdon, 255 yards, 5 TDs. I mean, talk about a difference maker. Like you alluded to, he was at Strawn. He won a state championship there. You move him over here, and on a 6-man football team, one guy can make a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, it really can, and especially as good as he is. This isn't just a guy. This is a guy that was the reigning player of the year. And, again, he came over to a team that had some really good pieces coming back, a really good defense last year, Brody White at quarterback. And so I still think Benjamin would have been a force in the playoffs, but he definitely was the guy that allowed them to get past that third, fourth, fifth round stage into the state championship.
Yeah, definitely. And that game started off pretty close. It looked like actually the two teams played each other earlier in the year. That was the only loss that Lorraine had. It was also the only time Benjamin didn't mercy rule somebody. So it was pretty close to the same score. Again, the first time they played, Lorraine scored, came out fast and scored early. They did that again this time, but it slowly wore them down. Next thing you know, it's mercy ruled in the third quarter, and it's ending early.
Yeah, you know, Lorraine took the haymaker shots. A.J. Williams, he had a 60-yard touchdown, then he had a 13-yard touchdown. And then I thought when they answered early in the second with another touchdown, I thought that they were going to be able to hang in this game and maybe pull off an upset. I know the last time that I was at AT&T in 2019, I can't remember the team, but one of the 6-mans pulled off what was considered a huge upset. I thought Lorraine might be able to do that, but you kind of realize in that second quarter and then early into the third that Grayson Rigdon could just literally do what he wanted to do, and they couldn't stop him. And he finishes with 255 yards on the ground on only 10 carries. That's just absolutely crazy. And I know 6-man's different, but still, that yards per is still amazing.
Yeah, definitely. You have any feedback there, Brett, before we go over to the next one?
Well, I didn't get to catch that game, but just saying that right there, 10 carries, 250. 25 yards a carry. That travels anywhere. I mean, doesn't matter what 6-man, 11-man, wherever you're playing. That's impressive.
So what are your guys' thoughts on 6-man being together with the 11-man and being able to get that experience at AT&T Stadium for those kids?
I mean, I like the fact that they get that same experience. We talked about it before. I don't like the fact that the 2A game gets kind of shifted up by itself. It kind of gets forgotten a little bit. But for the 1A guys, I think it's a great experience. I think it is kind of weird that they stagger them and they have like that week bye in between. So you kind of, is 1A over? Oh wait, no, they've got another week. They're just it's kind of a strange time to take that bye. So I don't know. That's the weird part to me is they wait on it. Maybe they do it at AT&T Stadium the week prior or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so they get the experience, but yet I don't know how that would work with, the contract that they've got worked out with Jerry Jones and all that. But
it seems like a natural evolution of this, especially if it's going to stay in Dallas. And I think it will for the foreseeable future. You have the Star in Frisco. Let's split this up, and the Star can be just as special because that's where the Cowboys practice. And I know the idea is, okay, these 1As, they get to come into the stadium, and that's awesome. But it just looks weird. The game never looks comfortable on the field because they're playing a 6-man game on a 11-man field, and it just looks weird. It never looks comfortable for the announcers, the players, or anybody.
And what did you think about the way it used to be? Remember early on when they moved there, they would play by themselves on
over
one
in
day,
Mansfield.
And then they'd have 4 games that second day. They would really pack it in there so that all the 11 men played at the same time.
I don't even know if you have to pack 4 in there. If you've already got 1 2A team playing on Wednesday. So if you wanted to move the 6-mans, move them, and then just do 2 2As on Wednesday, and you go from that order like that. And I think that would be perfectly fine. And everybody would get their day. And I think 6-man, if you put it over in Frisco, I think it looks better. And I'll tell you this, I wouldn't be opposed if 6-man, 2A and 3A were at the Star, and then 4A, 5A and 6A were at AT&T, because I know we make a big deal about the audience and the fans and so many people come. But like tonight in the Albany Mart game, 6,500, that's a good crowd. That's a really good crowd for your smallest 11-man division. But now take that 6,500 and put it at the Star where they hold like 14,000, and that crowd actually becomes a part of the game. The atmosphere actually feels good because let's be honest, up until maybe 5A, and it really depends on what 5A teams are there, you don't really ever get a true feel of the stadium and the atmosphere until it gets to be 40, 50,000 in there.
Right. Well, let's jump up to the Westbrook versus Abbott game. That was the second 6-man game, the 6A D1. This was another one. It was kind of a butt whooping, and that's one thing I don't like about 6-man at the highly competitive levels is they usually become very lopsided. In the middle, I guess the lower tier of the upper teams, you've got good games, but it's pretty rare at the state championship to get a good game.
Yeah, it really is. But I will say this, I think everybody expected the first game to possibly get out of hand. And I'm not going to pretend like I'm some big 6-man, guru, but from what I understand, this one was supposed to be a competitive game. Both of these teams had played really tough schedules and had lost a game, but had also played really good quality opponents. So I think this was one of those more of where the game just kind of got out of hand.
Yeah, I think so. You've got, like I said, Westbrook put up just all kinds of points, but it was much more even. On rushing, Cedric Ware and Grayson Jeffrey, both over 130, roughly 140 yards each. They did really well. One of them, Ware had 4 TDs. Grayson Jeffrey had 2 TDs. So it wasn't a Rigdon show. It was spread it out.
More of a team effort.
Yeah, and Westbrook was clearly the better team than Abbott in this one from the beginning. It just kind of just kept getting worse.
Yeah, they held Abbott to 17 yards rushing.
Yeah,
In a sport or a style of sport that is literally made for offense. And I will say, and we were talking a little bit about that in the last one with Benjamin, there's a lot more defense played at the 6-man level in the last few years than I think people realize, but still 17 yards total rushing for an Abbott team that came in.
Well, I thought that was
scoring.
halftime. They had 17.
Oh, I just got what I got from the final.
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. Wow.
Wow,
0.7 yards per rush.
That would be good. That would be good in 11-man.
Yeah, and here's the crazy thing. Keep looking further. They actually gained 62 yards, but they had 45 yards in losses. So it wasn't like they were just falling forward. They were getting some big plays, but they were consistently also getting tackled for losses in the game.
Right. All right. Well, the thing everybody's waiting for is the 11-man game. So let's jump into that one, the one that just got over. We've already had people on the Facebook group saying who won. Terry, what is your thought on the 2A Division II?
Well, I think the idea that this was supposed to be Mart's speed versus Albany's power, I think we realized Albany might have been just as fast as Mart at key positions. They were running away from the Mart defense, a Mart defense that nobody runs away from, and they were also using that power game. I know some people are trying to say this is an upset, but we've been saying it on the playoffs, and we said it on the preview show.
Mm-hmm.
This was not an Albany team that was a weaker team. This wasn't Windthorst Mart of 2 years ago. This was two evenly matched teams.
Yeah, I mean, they did have 2 losses, but it was while their horses were out. I mean, they were without Cole Chapman. They were without Coy Lefevre. And they were very close losses. So this was a much better team than a lot of people thought it was. And in our preview show, on my prediction, I was like, man, my heart wants Albany to win it. Because it's because of Denny Faith and 40 years he's been there. It's crazy. and he's been to the state championship now 5 times, but he had never won one until now. But I admit it, I picked Mart just because everybody.
Did anybody pick Albany in this game?
Yeah, I did. I did in our pregame show.
Oh, you did? Oh, nice.
Again, I don't think that this was Windthorst Mart was an upset 2 years ago. That's one of the biggest upsets, a top 10 upset. I never felt in this game that this was Mart's the overriding favorite, mainly because for all the talk about Mart and 3 state championships, a state championship finalist and a region semifinal or state semifinal last year, everybody that's at the key skill positions are all freshmen, sophomores. They're all new to this. And at times you could tell they were new to this. This is a team that next year is going to be right back here, and I think they're going to have grown up. But I just felt Albany was more mature. And again, they were just as fast when they needed to be.
They came out and hit them in the mouth. I mean, yes. Albany they came out from the start and basically hit Mart with a left cross, and they kind of stumbled back. And it's something I want to mention. And I don't know. I'm sure y'all noticed this. The coin flip.
Yeah, oh, yes. Yeah.
That could have cost them a chance to come back. I mean, Albany wins the toss, they defer. Mart chooses to kick off. That was very odd.
Look, this is my opinion on that, and I believe this all the way from high school to pros. It just needs to be if Team A defers, then automatically Team B is receiving.
Yeah,
they need to stop making them do that formality because mistakes
happen. I don't know. No, I think it's fine. I think that Coach Hoffman literally wanted his defense on the field first, and you can't get your choice there and then get your choice in the second half too. So
you're saying he purposely said we're going to kick twice.
I don't know that you'd ever want to do that.
No, I think he wanted his defense on the field first. I think he wanted to make a statement because their defense has been solid all year. So,
if that's the case, if he comes back and admits that was the case, that I just don't.
That's
I
an
just don't.
all-time blunder.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
don't
that's a, I
understand
mean,
that.
that's just,
I mean,
yeah, I
that's
mean,
that would be show true. Like you're that confident in your defense, or almost cocky.
or you're
That,
Barry
Well,
oh,
Switzer and you don't know
unless
what
they
you're
win,
doing.
unless
Huh?
they win, unless they, do like you said and punch him right in the mouth immediately and
yeah,
assert dominance, which he may have assumed that's what he needed to do.
I'll be honest, even if they did that and won, I still think that that's really a bad decision to say, I am so confident in my defense, I'm going to kick twice. That just,
that's
I think it was a mistake. I think there was miscommunications. I think now let's peel back the layer. There's a secret. What you see at the 50 ain't really what happens. The
Sure.
coin toss is done on the side about 20 minutes before. Usually coaches are right around so they can hear it and the officials will kind of say, hey, this is what did they really want this? Maybe because it's state they didn't do that. And I say this in the pros too. I think it's a stupid formality. If team A defers, well then team B goes, okay, we're getting the ball to start. Then they deferred.
Right.
We shouldn't have to make them go, well, make sure you word this exactly properly, because if you don't, well then you're gonna. I just think that's a weird puzzle to begin a game.
yeah, it is really
Oh,
strange.
I agree.
Yeah, the thing I was impressed with was it wasn't just one player on Albany. They hit him with a three. I call it a three-headed monster tonight. And you had LaFleur and you had Hill come in, kind of a
Yeah.
pace changing back. Played tight end last year, he said, and they moved him to tailback, which
Yeah.
what a great decision that was. And
Yeah.
then Chapman did pretty much
Well,
whatever he wanted.
my take on that is yes, Lefevre made the touchdowns. So yeah, Andy made the interception. So yeah, you give him the MVP. But in watching every play, Adam Hill did as much to set up those scores as he did, and Cole Chapman did more than either of them did together.
Yeah,
But again, the way announcers and sportscasters think is, oh, this guy scored. This guy did the interception. So, you do it all. Of course, you're going to win the MVP, which isn't to downplay what he did, because those short yardage runs he put in, they were solid. I mean, he went against the best that they had to offer and pushed them. So he did a great job. I just think Cole Chapman was the game in this thing. So many third down and longs that he turned into a first down or a fourth down and one.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you could go wrong if you named any of the three, as your thing. You could even have gone, they went Wyatt on defense, which I have no problem with. But if a guy that stood out to me, not only because he kicked, but how he's played on the offensive line and defensive line, was that Zane Wagner. And he didn't have a ton of. He didn't have a ton
lineman
of
that was
tackles.
a kicker. How often does that? That was
exactly. Kicker, starting tackle, and starting defensive tackle. And he didn't have a lot of defensive stats, but he was plugging those gaps pretty good. And his blocking on the offensive line, he was the one leading the way for all three of them behind him. So I agree that we in the media tend to go more of the skill position, but Zane Wagner could have easily been an MVP for me.
Yeah, I believe. Oh, and Wyatt Wyndham, I think, could have got a defensive MVP.
He did. I think Wyatt did get the defensive.
Oh, did he? Well, there you go. Good choice.
He was dominant, especially in that second half when it looked like Mark was kind of starting to maybe try to find their footing. And I think we all kept going, hey, if Mark gets one more touchdown, they could turn things around. But every time Albany's defense, including Wyatt, just seemed to make stop after stop.
Yeah, we were talking about over chat with the NSN guys. We had a chat going on during this game, and Uncle Mo was pulling in to Mark there for a second, and he went back to Albany and he made residence tonight.
Nice. Yeah, well, you're right. It looked like it could have easily turned. There was a time when it was 31-20 or something like that, 34-21. And Mart was driving, and you're thinking, wow, if they score, it's a game. And then, like you said, defensive stop, and all of a sudden, well, it's not a game anymore.
No, and again, I think what needs to be hammered on is this is not what Mart did wrong. Mart did not play a terrible football game. They did have the two interceptions, and they were important. I'm not trying to say they weren't, but I think if you played these two teams 10 times, I think Albany wins 7, 8 times.
Yeah, definitely.
I was very impressed, and not getting able to see. I mean, we got a little bit of mark because they were in our area, kind of the region, but not knowing much about Albany. I was very impressed, and so was our guys. I mean, they came out and they wanted it tonight. They wanted it more.
Mhm.
They came out with the fire, and they were hitting. They were hitting on both sides of the ball, offense and when they hit the holes running the ball, they were making the contact on the defense. I mean,
Yeah,
they were
exactly. Good
running hard.
point. And the running backs for Albany were always leaning forward.
Mm-hmm.
I think with the sophomore running back for Mark, you saw the good things, but at times you could see him trying to hit home runs when there wasn't a home run. Just take the 2-yard gain. Don't try to reverse your field, cut back, and especially at key moments. You got the smartest thing a player does as they mature. It's not knowing when to hit the home runs; it's when not to. And there was a couple runs that if he just gets down, it's a 3rd and 5 instead of a 3rd and 9. And it's little things like that. And that's why I say Mark was young. This is a young, smart team. This isn't your Mark team that's been – the fact that they made it this far, speaks to, again, Martin. It also speaks to the where they're at in the region and the talent of that division. But, yeah, Mark next year's back here. Martin 2 years is probably back here. But for in this game, it was a young team versus a mature team, and a mature team that Albany just never looked rattled. They never looked shook. It didn't look like they were playing in a big game, and I mean that as a compliment.
Right.
That's been a big thing that I've been hearing with coaches that I've been talking to in our pregame shows is the team that wins is the team that makes the game just a football game the quickest. They get over the state, the adrenaline and all that, and it just becomes a game. Albany was like that from kickoff.
Yeah, they're almost like a team of destiny, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like destiny. Kind of like Chris was saying that they'd been there 40 years and hadn't won a state title. It was just one of those kind of destiny type seasons, it looked like to me.
Yeah, definitely. And to your point, Terry, Mark looked, again, very talented, extremely talented. I agree they will be back. But they made a lot of mental mistakes. There were a lot of penalties at key times, blocking the back, holding, things like that, it was just, I think the situation was catching up with them, and they just lose cool for a split second, and that would change the whole drive.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. Well, hey, I want to mention quickly the Brotherhood of Texas High School Football. That is something we do at Lone Star Gridiron. We have team pages for every single school out there. And if you go and fill out the form, it's a simple form, your name, what year you played, what school, your name shows up on that team page as one of the Brotherhood of Texas High School Football, which basically just means, we're the folks that played the game. So, at my alma mater, Vanderbilt Industrial, obviously we got a lot of people in there because I went and bugged them all and said, hey, go sign up. But, you look at Mark Panthers and you'll see 10 or 15 people who have signed up. And we do that for every school. So definitely, if you played Texas high school football, fill it out.
Oh, and those team pages, we're also we did this a few years ago, and we're going to get back to it. We're going to start adding the records and stuff, because one of the things that's the hardest thing to do when we're covering this stuff is to find stuff that's 5 and 6 years older, specific stuff. I mean, you can type in a game and maybe find an old box score, but specific stuff like, hey, what was this team's record 15 years ago, or what's their playoff run the last 4 out of 12 years? And there was a couple sites that did that, but they've kind of went by the wayside. And so we were going to try to fill that void, because we're all nuts, and we all do the whole Wikipedia jump down a wormhole, and that's what we want to create on our pages, where you can start at one and you just end up going through 40 team pages before you realize it.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of fun. Like you said, for us sports nerds, it's a gold mine of stuff that we have over 100 years worth of data on teams all over every team out there. So let's talk about the previews for the people who don't know what they are, just kind of run down what they are and when they come out, because we're putting them out. We're trying to get them out the day before the actual games at AT&T.
Like today we had to do 4 today with the 1-2. Maybe that's why I don't like the 1-2A on the Wednesday. It's like it's just a weird time to put out a show. But we got that one out. But we also got the 3 for tomorrow, which are the 1-2A and then the 2-3As. Tomorrow morning, I will produce and put together the 4As that everybody's helped pitch in on. We did Road to States. We have multiple people making picks. And things like that, and then so forth and so forth. Friday we'll make sure, or the 5As will be out, and then Friday we'll do the 6As, and then once again we'll all meet here each night. And I think starting tomorrow it'll get a little bit bigger because we're going to be able to talk nothing but 3 11-man games, and I think 2 of the 3 have a chance to be really, really good, and then the one I don't know, man. I'm still firmly in the Gunter corner. But I'm just starting to sense maybe Poth might have enough of a defense to give Gunner a bigger issue than I maybe had thought beforehand, just after talking to some coaches down in Post District today.
Yeah, and you mentioned coaches. In those previews, we also have interviews with coaches.
Yes.
That is talking about that actual game. So it's not just canned interviews. It's, hey, let's talk about, the Refugio coach, talk about what you're going to go up against when you're facing Holly and vice versa.
Yep. And then we have, like I said, we have all of us doing our picks, and it's going to be, it's going to be fun. We love doing these. And I like the post-game shows. I'm a little worried overall, and we didn't give a chance to really do this as a group. Grant and I did. This is not one of the weeks that I'm wowed by a lot of the games. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, Galena Park, North Shore, and Duncanville. Okay, we've seen this. It's.
I don't know. I want to.
I don't know though four times. I mean, 4 times the charm for Duncanville, Terry.
Well, and I think that's the only reason why everybody's still hooked in. I think if both of these coaches had won multiple states, because let's be honest, outside of the Hail Mary game, the other 3 have not been close. I mean, Galena Park North Shore has just grinded Duncanville down in the other games. And if it wasn't for Coach Samples trying, I don't know if as many people would be like, yeah, that's still exciting. But just the whole lineup.
It's the same story as this game. Samples deserves it. He's been there.
Yes, I agree.
You don't get it because you deserve it, though.
Chris, not in a way, Chris. You just said a while ago that the Albany coach deserved it. No,
right. You're right. But that ain't why he won.
I see. Yeah, he's saying he won't win just simply because he was
right. Well, he won because he has the better team today.
Galena
Park North Shore has the better team.
I feel sorry for their coach because, and I listened last year after that game, and like the first 4 questions to him were about Reginald Samples. And It's like, dude, they won. Like, look, yes, it's a great story. We know it by now, but this guy has won. Give him his props first. Don't talk Samples. I think I counted. I think it was 4 questions before they finally. And he's a cool coach. He's very respectful. He answered them properly and all. But it's like, I don't know. Half the people I think want him to win because they love him, and I think half people are just like, dude, win and be done with it because. It's gone from a feel good to just you're still here. Like the Buffalo Bills. Seriously, it's like the Buffalo Bills of the 90s. The first 2, you're like, oh, that's cute. We hope you. And then by that 3rd one, you're like, could y'all just stop? Seriously, just please stop coming to this. But we'll see.
It could be a week for South Dallas. That's for sure.
Well, and that's every year they hope for it because that's where the majority of the media folks are. But it doesn't bother me when they don't win.
It's not. This isn't a DFW thing. This is a Reginald Sampson. It Samples. If he was, you flip it, and if he was at Galena Park North Shore doing this, he would still be getting the same thing. Look at all the love that.
I agree. I'm just saying. Brett just said it was a South Dallas thing. So
no,
I think he's talking about South Oak Cliff too.
It could be a week for the South
the fact
Dallas.
That they're all within a couple miles of each other is what he's saying.
Yeah, exactly. But they're also all of them have Reginald Samples' footprint. Coach Todd directly under him, Coach Mathis directly under him. So I see what both of you are saying on that. But yeah, and then the fact it is 3 teams right around each other, and especially when you really think of, 2 of them in the same district. DeSoto wasn't supposed to be there. DeSoto, they're a really good program. Clyde Mathis has done a good job, but I don't think anybody had DeSoto. And for the record, nobody had Austin Vandergrift playing them. And by the way, I think that's one of the sneaky, really good games. I think I think Vandergrift is way better than what people are trying to make it sound. This isn't a plucky team. This is a team that went toe-to-toe with Katy, and every blow that Katy did, Vandergrift came back with
Terry,
2 more. So
you have not met the CM theory, though, Terry.
What's that?
That's Corey's theory, the CM theory. If you win a close game week before, you struggle the next week.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But I disagree with, because I think
Chris's theory is backwards.
Win a close game, you're tested.
I think, honestly, it always just depends on how healthy you come out of that game, period.
Right.
I don't think I think it's literally just like, how walking wounded are you? Talking to some players and some stuff like, Shallow Water, when they went into the next round, I can't remember who they played. They were just beat up physically, and so they couldn't respond to It was Paradise they played. They couldn't respond when Paradise got physical with them, and there's nothing you can do about that. We can mono and all that, but at the end of the day, if you're beat up, you're beat up.
Yeah, that's true. So any final thoughts, Terry, before we pull this thing to a close?
I think tomorrow begins the real, just game after game after game, and nothing. And again, nothing against Wednesday. I just always have looked at Thursday. That's the real start of all this, and that's when you're going to start seeing the crowds, and you're going to start. It's nothing but 12 hours of football. It's red zone for high school football.
Right, and this show, 10 p.m. every night while they're there, this show will get much more interesting too, because there will be 3 11-man games to talk about. We won't be skimming through the 6-man.
Oh, yeah. And there's going to be a lot of I say that this ain't the best week, but I still think there's going to be enough excitement that each game will deserve, a good look at.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys, thank you all for tuning in, and definitely go on to LoneStarGridiron.com. Check out those previews. A lot of great content that you should be listening to before the game. It'll help you just kind of understand how those teams got here, and maybe who you think should be winning.
Yeah, exactly. And they're on LoneStarGridiron.com or all of the podcast platforms. Just type in Lone Star Gridiron and you'll find them.
Right on. Thanks a lot, guys.
Gridiron Warriors take the field in an epic battle that is larger than life. It is called Texas High School Football. Only one show can bring the greatest sport from the greatest state into focus. Lone Star Gridiron.
Gridiron.com. Access the complete history of Texas high school football, over 100 years of information, win-loss records, coaching histories, individual stats, records, and more. Lone Star Gridiron, the authority on Texas